Crayfishing on the west coast, especially in places like New Zealand and parts of the US, targets the diverse populations of crayfish, also known as rock lobsters, in coastal waters. In these regions, crayfish pots are often used for commercial and recreational fishing, designed to attract and trap crayfish with bait. Depending on the area's regulations, pots might be limited by size or designed to avoid capturing undersized or non-target species, ensuring sustainable harvests. The 16-size crayfish in this pot suggests a pot that has captured crayfish of varying sizes. This diversity is typically a sign of a well-populated fishing area, with the sizes potentially reflecting different age groups. On the west coast, crayfish are typically harvested in sizes ranging from small juveniles, which are often released, to large adults, kept for consumption. In west coast crayfishing, the goal is usually to target mature crayfish that meet legal size requirements. Regulations are crucial, as they help prevent overfishing and ensure healthy crayfish populations. Size limits are often strictly enforced. Undersized crayfish are typically returned to the sea to allow them to mature and contribute to the population.
Wait till you get them all out, then we can have a look one by one.
Crayfish pots are often baited with fish, and their design encourages crayfish to enter but makes it difficult for them to escape. The pots are lowered to rocky or reef-covered areas on the seabed, where crayfish are most abundant. These habitats provide ideal shelter and food sources, making them attractive areas for setting traps. After a set period, typically 24 hours or more, the pots are pulled up, and the catch is examined. Larger crayfish, especially the highly prized red or spiny varieties, are harvested, while any undersized or non-target species are carefully released back into the water.
Big, beautiful male there.
Oh, look at him.
That's a male. He's handsome.
The practice of selectively harvesting crayfish based on size and maturity helps protect future stocks, contributing to a sustainable and productive crayfish fishery on the west coast. To catch crayfish, rock lobster, on the west coast using pots. Follow these steps for a successful and sustainable fishing trip. Before starting, make sure to understand and follow all local crayfishing regulations, including size limits, bag limits, closed seasons, and required permits or licenses. Regulations ensure sustainable harvests and protect crayfish populations. Use a pot designed for crayfish with a sturdy frame and appropriate mesh size.
We'll throw it back in the ocean. Right. There we go. Off you go. Yeah, but it's good now.
Yeah.
Pot should have a narrow entrance, which crayfish can enter but find difficult to escape. Add escape gaps or panels if required by regulations. These gaps allow undersized crayfish to escape, helping maintain the population. Secure bait in the pot. Crayfish are attracted to strong-smelling baits like fish heads, carcasses, or other fishy remains. Crayfish are typically found in rocky areas, reefs, or underwater structures where they can hide and find food. Look for spots close to the seafloor with plenty of crevices. Depths of 10 to 30 meters are common for setting crayfish pots. But this
we've got our quota. So throw it back.
can vary depending on the area and species of crayfish. Lower the pot carefully into the water, ensuring it reaches the desired depth and lands on the seafloor. Attach a buoy with your identification details, as required, so you can retrieve the pot later and ensure others can identify your gear if it drifts. Allow the pot to soak for a period, typically between 12 and 24 hours. This gives crayfish enough time to locate the bait and enter the trap. Longer soak times may increase the chances of catching larger crayfish, but be cautious about leaving it for too long. as this can attract other sea life or risk pot loss. Use the buoy line to pull up the pot, being careful not to spill the contents. Once
there, that's a jumbo. Look at that one. That's a fucking jumbo. He's a beauty. He's about 3-4 kilos right there.
on deck, inspect your catch and handle crayfish carefully to avoid damaging their claws or shell. Measure each crayfish to ensure it meets the legal size requirements. Release any undersized crayfish back into the water gently, as well as any female crayfish with eggs. To support population sustainability, keep legal-sized crayfish cool and damp until you're ready to cook or transport them. Avoid leaving them exposed to sun or heat for extended periods. Tips for success. Bait choice. Crayfish are highly attracted to oily or strong-smelling bait. Fresh or salted fish works best. Pot maintenance. Check for wear and tear to avoid crayfish escaping and regularly clean to remove algae or barnacles. Weather and tide conditions. Ideal crayfishing is usually done during calm seas and lower tides, as rough conditions can displace pots. By following these steps and adhering to local guidelines, you can enjoy a productive and sustainable crayfishing experience on the West Coast. Observe current and tides. Crayfish often follow the current toward food, so placing pots in areas with a steady current can improve your chances. However, avoid areas with very strong currents that might move or damage your pot. Location consistency. Once you find a productive spot, it's often beneficial to revisit the same location. Crayfish are territorial and tend to remain in familiar habitats, so a good location can yield repeated catches. Replace bait regularly. Fresh bait attracts more crayfish. If you're planning multiple trips, carry extra bait to replace old, exhausted bait when resetting your pots.
Any other fucking crayfish but better because I fucking caught them. Say hello and thank you to everyone else out there watching us and supporting.
Secure bait well. If the bait isn't well secured, other fish and sea creatures may consume it before crayfish can enter the trap, reducing the effectiveness of the pot. Before heading out, always check the weather forecast, tide schedules, and sea conditions. High waves and stormy weather can make it difficult to deploy and retrieve pots safely and may cause pots to drift. Choose days with favorable conditions for optimal crayfishing and safety, particularly if you're working in deeper waters where conditions can change quickly. Avoid grabbing by claws. Crayfish are often best handled by holding their body to avoid damaging the claws or injuring yourself. Gentle return for undersized catch. Release any undersized crayfish or females with eggs gently back to their habitat.
Look how big that one is. He's about 15 mil over.
As crayfish are more likely to survive if returned without stress or injury. 13. Keep a log of successful trips. Record details of each trip, including the location, depth, bait type, soak time, and weather conditions. Tracking these factors can help you identify patterns and make future trips more successful. Gear and equipment. Always wear appropriate gear when handling crayfish pots, as they can be heavy and tricky to maneuver, especially on boats. Communication and safety gear. If fishing offshore, carry a marine radio or communication device, and always inform someone about your fishing plans. Responsible crayfishing means respecting regulations. Release.
What a monster that one is. Boy. Okay, I'll put them in the esky.
Undersized or breeding individuals, and avoiding excessive harvest. Following these practices ensures crayfish populations remain healthy and abundant for future fishing seasons. By refining your crayfishing technique and paying close attention to details like location, bait, and timing, you'll increase your chances of a successful catch. Sustainable practices also support a healthy marine environment and allow you to enjoy crayfishing for years to come. Seasonal patterns. Crayfish behavior changes with the seasons. Late summer and early fall are often peak crayfishing times as crayfish are more active, especially in warmer waters. Night fishing. Crayfish are nocturnal and tend to be more active at night.
OKC, Oklahoma, I think it stands for. It's for you guys. Put this out of my cameraman. Leon.
Setting pots in the late afternoon or evening and retrieving them in the morning can increase your catch, as crayfish will be more likely to find the bait. If regulations permit, deploying multiple pots in different spots can improve your chances. Spread them out over different locations, depths, and terrain types to cover a broader area and find the best hotspots. Space pots wisely. Leave enough space between pots to avoid competition among crayfish and reduce the chance of entanglement with other fish's pots. While fish heads and carcasses are popular, crayfish are sometimes drawn to other strong-smelling baits like squid or crushed shellfish. Experimenting with different baits can reveal what works best in your specific fishing area.
Look at that.
Oh, he's massive.
That's a beauty. Ow, mighty boy.
Salted bait. Salted bait tends to last longer in the water than fresh bait, which can be helpful for longer soak times. Crayfish pots can sometimes trap unintended species, such as fish, octopus, or other crustaceans. Check your pot for bycatch and release any non-target species to minimize environmental impact. Use pot modifications. Some crayfish pots come with adjustable entrances or barriers that can help minimize bycatch while still allowing crayfish in. Keep crayfish cool and moist. After retrieving your crayfish, store them in a cool, damp environment to keep them fresh.
Seen us build the cray pot. Now you see us catch the crayfish out of it. But, we put,
Avoid direct sunlight or high temperatures, which can harm them quickly. Short-term storage. If you plan to transport them, placing them in a cooler with damp seaweed or wet newspaper can help maintain their freshness. Crayfish are a delicacy and can be enjoyed in various dishes, from boiling and grilling to stews and curries. Many fishers enjoy sharing their catch with family and friends, but ensure you stick to your legal bag limit and avoid overharvesting. Preserve the experience. For those looking to enjoy crayfish out of season, crayfish can be cooked and frozen or prepared in jars for later use, ensuring that you can enjoy your catch year-round. Each crayfishing area has unique factors that influence catch success, such as water temperature, seasonal changes, and tidal patterns. Connecting with local fishers or joining a local fishing club can provide valuable insights into the best practices for that specific region.
Yes, we're on Levi too.
By combining these techniques, observing local habits, and adapting based on your experiences, you'll be well prepared to maximize your success in crayfishing on the West Coast while contributing to sustainable fishing practices. GPS tracking. Mark the location of your pots with GPS to make retrieval easier, especially if you're using multiple pots. This can also help you create a map of productive fishing spots over time. Sonar and fish finder tools. These can be helpful for identifying crayfish habitats, like rocky areas or reefs, and for assessing underwater terrain before deploying your pots. Crayfish can be found at various depths, and changing water temperatures or seasons may influence the preferred depth. In colder months, try placing pots slightly deeper.
Woohoo! Look at all those in there. Awesome.
As crayfish may move to warmer areas of the ocean floor, test different depths. Start with pots at multiple depths to see where the most active crayfish populations are located, and adjust over time for optimal placement. Tidal influence. Crayfish activity can be affected by tidal changes, Many fishers find better results during lower tides when crayfish may venture out of their hiding places to feed. Moon phases, full moons can make the water brighter at night, sometimes leading crayfish to seek shelter rather than roam for food. Darker nights can be ideal for crayfishing, so consider timing your trips with new moons for increased activity. Crayfish populations are sensitive to overfishing. Rotate your fishing spots to allow previously fished areas to recover. Returning to the same location repeatedly can reduce crayfish numbers and impact local ecosystems.
Use bonito, mackies, and tunas here. That's all we use for bait.
Even your old fish frames.
Prevent fouling. Over time, algae and barnacles can build up on pots, reducing their effectiveness. Regularly clean and check your pots to ensure they remain in good working condition and free from fouling. Inspect for damage. Look for any wear, rust, or damage, especially around entry points. Repair any issues promptly to prevent crayfish from escaping or other fishes from identifying the pot as damaged. Some fishers use offcuts from sustainable fish species or bait derived from local fish populations to minimize environmental impact. Sustainable baiting practices help reduce pressure on fish stocks and maintain a balance in the ecosystem. Be mindful of protected areas, breeding zones, and marine sanctuaries. These areas often have restrictions to preserve wildlife, and adhering to these boundaries helps support marine biodiversity. Each crayfishing trip offers learning opportunities. Note details like bait effectiveness, specific pot designs, or environmental factors that influenced your success. Experiment with different methods and adapt your approach over time for improved results. Conclusion: by applying a combination of strategy, adaptability, and respect for the environment, you can enhance your crayfishing experience and contribute positively to the health of crayfish populations. Following these best practices ensures that future generations can continue to enjoy this valuable marine resource. Creating a sustainable approach to crayfishing on the west coast. Weather: crayfish are less active during turbulent weather, so choosing calmer days can improve your chances. If you're fishing in the open ocean, keep a close eye on the weather for safety as well. Seasonal variability: on the west coast, crayfish behavior and availability often vary by season. Learn the specific breeding and molting seasons in your area to avoid disturbing sensitive populations, as well as the times when crayfish are most active and likely to be feeding. Experiment with different soak times based on your target depth, bait type, and crayfish behavior, or, for shorter soaks, e.g. 6 to 12 hours, the bait stays fresher, which may help attract more crayfish in active areas. Longer soaks, up to 24 hours, can work well if crayfish are abundant in the area. Avoid excessive soak times. Leaving pots out too long can cause bait to decompose and attract non-target species, or even lead to pot loss. Regular checks help keep your bait fresh and maintain catch quality. Biodegradable escape mechanisms: some fishers add biodegradable panels or ties that dissolve after a certain period, allowing trapped crayfish to escape if a pot is lost. This is an eco-friendly option that minimizes ghost fishing, where lost gear continues to trap marine life. Durable, eco-friendly gear: pots made from eco-friendly materials or with fewer synthetic elements reduce environmental impact and can last longer when properly maintained. Pay attention to the size, number, and health of crayfish in your pots. If you notice smaller crayfish or fewer individuals over time, it may indicate overfishing or environmental stress in that area. Respect size limits. Ensuring that you only keep legally sized crayfish is critical for protecting younger generations and maintaining population health. Mark pots clearly. Label buoys with identifying information, including your contact information if required. Bright colors and flags can make them more visible from a distance. Timing: retrieve pots when there's minimal boat traffic to avoid interference. Early mornings or late evenings often work well for quiet, efficient retrieval, especially in busy fishing areas. Respecting others' space and communicating about popular spots can help avoid pot entanglements and conflicts. Many fishers have informal agreements about spacing and rotation in popular crayfishing areas, which helps everyone have a successful experience, even if a crayfish is legal size. Practicing selective catch and release with the healthiest and most active individuals can contribute to a more sustainable population. Returning strong crayfish can improve the breeding stock and help maintain a resilient local population. Many coastal communities have rich traditions around crayfishing. Sharing tips, recipes, and conservation practices with local fishers can enhance the experience for everyone. Contributing to community discussions or volunteering with local conservation efforts can also make a positive impact. By integrating these advanced techniques and principles, you'll not only improve your personal success in crayfishing but also contribute to a more sustainable and respectful approach. Crayfishing can be both a rewarding experience and a way to support the health of the coastal marine environment for future generations.